Hi everyone, it's Samantha from Visit Lincoln and I'm joined today by Katrina Pierce of the FSB, and Katrina is going to be going over the budget in a little bit more detail for us. I think we've all had a chance to sleep on it and start to let it digest a little bit. It does appear that the Chancellor has listened to many of the concerns raised, I think, by hospitality and tourism sector. As Katrina tells us, the budget needs to be looked over in detail. The devil is there in the detail. I think crucial support is coming through as people are starting to prepare to open. Some of the things that, some of the things we can look forward to are the 5% VAT rate, which I think was absolutely crucial for hospitality businesses. Reduction on the rest of the financial year for your business rates, again, much needed support there. All the grants are welcomed. I think priority with grants is letting people know about them and getting them out quickly as possible. ARG funding, I think we'll touch on that in a little while. Apprenticeships, always welcomed. Any incentives around apprenticeships, they're a major boost to our sector, in particularly hospitality. It does aid commitment and upskilling people across the whole county. Cultural recovery fund, national museums, cultural bodies, they've got a little bit. Alcohol duty, no increase, which is always good. Support for the airports, extended zoo animals fund, and I think they're just a few of the things that I kind of picked up on straight away. We're going to go to Katrina, who is going to go through all this with us in a bit more detail. And Katrina, can you sort of bring us up to speed? I'm sure you had a very busy day yesterday.
Just a little bit, yeah. Budget day is always a busy old day, but then after the year we've had, and all of the various campaigning bodies like the hospitality industry, like FSB, and lots of other bodies been lobbying really hard for some significant change, some significant certainty over what funding and incentives and growth incentives were going to look like from this. So it's probably been one of the most significant dates in the calendar of the last year, if not of this, well, probably post-war period, really. It feels like talking in grand terms, but I think when we last met last week, we'd just had the news that this was the biggest drop in GDP for 300 years. It takes a significant budget to start to bring a nation back from the brink at that scale. So we were campaigning for this to be, the words we're using, the most ambitious budget in modern history. Was it? Arguably not. But there's lots and lots of good stuff in there. I mean, a budget is always full of wants and needs and must-haves. We saw some of the wants and needs. We saw some of the must-haves. We didn't see absolutely everything. Were we likely to, given where we are, you know, in the borrowing that's going on? So yes, I think it arguably, very obliquely, could have gone further. But lots of good stuff in there. Lots of good stuff in there for the hospitality industry. So we're going to take a little look at that. So I'll just warn you, as we speak, this information is less than 20 hours old. We're speaking at just after 9 a.m. the morning after the budget. So it's all brand new. And as Samantha said, the devil is definitely in the details. So there'll be more to come out. There'll be more details. There'll be hard dates. There'll be certain factors that come out yet. But this, as I'm reporting this to you, is as we know it today. So I'm going to take you through some of the headline stats, a bit of context first though. So as we predicted, the Chancellor really did start his address levelling the land, levelling with us really in letting us know where the nation is in terms of borrowing. Now, to get through the last year, to fund the furlough scheme, the self-employment scheme, all of the local authority grants, the COVID response, you know, from a health perspective for the NHS, rolling out the vaccines, that has cost a phenomenal amount of money. No hiding from that, we all knew it. But this, we are so far borrowing to the tune of 234 billion. That is a significant amount of money. People always wonder where the hell are you borrowing it from? It comes from kind of International Monetary Fund and all these things that you think probably only exist on computers somewhere. It's basically massive international borrowing. It takes many years to pay that kind of money back. So the Chancellor didn't launch us into huge repayment systems of lots of massively increasing personal income tax. That might come realistically in the years to come. We might see our own personal tax go up. You might see fuel duty creep up. You might see some of the things slowly creep up because essentially this money has to be paid back. What's tided us over this last year will have to be paid back, but not yet. Okay, so this gives us, there's no point in the Chancellor putting up taxes now when personal and business finances are quite so fragile. It would be absolutely counterproductive. So we need to get the economy up and running, people back to work, businesses profitable before we can start to recoup some of that money. So, but you can see the level so far, and that's only predicted it could go up 234 billion. Chancellor outlined this as basically a three-part plan, basically to protect jobs and livelihoods. That did come through strong in the budget. So it's about protecting businesses in that first instance, and this is a lot of the stuff that we're going to go through in the next half an hour. Fix the public finances, so get our own house in order so that we're in a good position to be paying back this international borrowing, and then to use his words, begin the work of building our future economy. So it's really going through that levelling up agenda again, making sure that we take advantage of what COVID has taught us, automation, digital, remote working, all of those things that we've taught this year, that we've learned this year. It's not to lose sight of that, use them to power up our future agenda and the future economy so we come back strong. But there was some good news there in that kind of, oh God, we're in an awful lot of international debt, of national debt. The OBRs, that's the Office of Budgetary Reporting, Responsibility, sorry. So they're the guys that actually work with the Chancellor to basically balance the nation's books. They work with the Chancellor to work out and deliver the budget. They've predicted that the economy will bounce back to pre-COVID level by autumn next year. Now that might seem way off, but that will be gradual recovery, probably from March, May, reasonably, when businesses start to reopen on a wider scale and people get back to work. And crucially, that is 6 months earlier than originally thought. So not 2023, that'll take us into 2022, but we don't have to wait to see that recovery. It will be gradual, baby steps along the way. So there was some good news there. So that's the landscape, that's where we are. What does this mean for your business and for businesses in the county? So we're going to go through some of the key sort of flagship factors in his speech yesterday, what affects you, what you need to look out for, and how you're going to work some of this. So the restarts grants were actually trailed over the weekend. We didn't hear about these for the first time at the budget yesterday. These were trailed on Saturday. This is a £5 billion pot of money designed to help mostly customer-facing businesses, lots in the hospitality industry, to recover. So these are one-off restart grants. They won't be monthly. There'll be a one-off grant. Now they are largely going to, yes, customer-facing businesses, hotels, cafes, restaurants, shops, gyms, personal care, so salons, that kind of thing. This is basically to counteract a predicted collapse of the high street. It's to offset that, help businesses on the high street come back, recover, buy equipment they need, upskill, do signage, whatever they need to come back strong. Now there is an argument, and we've heard this from other members, that this seems to benefit businesses that have already benefited from the local authority grant. At this stage, it is what it is. They do seem to be, they are more generous than the local restrictions grants that have been in place. We were thinking they might be around sort of £2,000 or £3,000 at the lowest level. Seems they're going to be £6,000 to £18,000 per eligible business. I think it's more non-essential retail will be at that smaller end. Hotels, restaurants, and things will be at that larger end of £18,000. So that is a welcome boost that is coming your way. It will be paid via your local authority, just like all the other grants have been. So this is money that gets cascaded down from central government into the local authority that then gets distributed to the businesses, the eligible businesses in that district. And this will replace the current local restrictions grant scheme, the LRGS, that monthly payment you've probably been getting of around anything from £600 to £1,500 every 28-day closure. Or 14-day closure if it was when we were in kind of the tier system. This will completely replace that, so you're not going to be getting both. This will supersede it, but it should be a lot simpler to administrate. I mean, I think councils have tried to do a good job of just trying to dish the money out, not making people apply every time. If you've had the local restrictions grants, chances are this will just be paid out to you. You won't need to do anything, but do keep an eye on your local authority's website and all their social media for word on when they're paying them out. They haven't got that money yet because this money is cascaded from central government. The local councils haven't got that money yet, so don't go asking for it today. This is going to be paid out in April. Okay, so you've only a little bit longer to sit tight and get it. £6,000 to £18,000, but that money's got to come from government yet into the councils. Then they've got to distribute it out, which takes a few days or even weeks, but that's coming in April. So this should really benefit the hospitality sector. restaurant shops, and use that money. There will maybe be some guidance in there about how they want you to use it, but for what we've seen from the local restrictions grants, there's not been a lot of caveats into how you should use that money. It's whatever you need to get through this period, whether it's paying rents, keeping your own bills ticking over. Use the money if it's coming your way. It's not going to come again. Chances are this will be the last round of grants that comes now, as you know, this is coming in April, and that's when the economy is starting to be opened up bit by bit by bit. So chances are this will be the last grant. So if you're eligible, take it, spend it wisely, but it probably will be the last one. Job retention scheme. Now, I know this is something really, really important to the hospitality sector, particularly hotels and restaurants, where you've essentially been closed on and off for the last year. So this is the furlough scheme. I think we've probably all stopped calling it the job retention scheme. That's its official name. Unofficially, we all call it the furlough scheme. So there were some concerns that this was going to end in April. Well, that was when it was due to officially end, but that would be before most businesses were back to full speed. We've been lobbying really hard to tell Treasury it's not a case of opening the doors and all the financial damage is gone. People are back to work, full capacity, all staff are back in place, full footfall. That is not the case. There will be a bit of a lag, where it will take businesses a while to run back up. And I know from the public's perspective, just monitoring social media yesterday, that the extension has caused some consternation. People saying, well, hang on, I thought we were supposed to be back at work in the next couple of months, but you're keeping the job retention scheme open until autumn. That sounds a bit sus. What you're not telling us? I think that's people not appreciating how businesses work, that it takes a while to run, you need a run up to getting at full capacity. And thankfully, that's exactly what this will do. So the scheme that was originally supposed to be for 3 months this time last year, that went to 6 months, 9 months, a year and a month, is now going to run until the end of September. Realistically, unless we have another wave of the virus, that seems to me it will be the very, very, very last hurrah of this scheme. It will run through to the end of September, so not start of September, end of September. So that should give you some reassurance that if you've got staff on furlough, you can keep them there while you're reopening, or you can keep some of them there while you're reopening. You can keep them there until the very end of September to give yourself the best possible chance of bringing them back to either full-time or part-time work, whatever their normal contract is, so you can take a nice run up over the summer to build up some money to bring them back to work, and then obviously pay their wages as you would normally. Good news is we were thinking it might taper down a little bit, but that doesn't seem to make sense economically, because if you slash that money off the public, off their own wages, that then stymies the economic recovery, because people have got less money to actually spend in the shops, hotels, restaurants, and especially there's a big push for British people to holiday in the UK this summer. You take away some of their wages, they ain't going to do that. So it makes sense to keep that that level at 80%. But from July, you're going to need to contribute 10% of that. So your staff will still get 80%, but government will pay 70, you'll pay 10. In August and September, you'll need to pay 20% of their hours, their non-hours worked. So we did have a few months of that last year. I honestly can't remember at what point it was, so much that's happened. I think it was probably over the summer, or sort of September, October, where you had to start to contribute, and then it pulled back. We think you'll still have to contribute national insurance and pensions in that period as well. But hopefully by then, by July, you'll have had a bit of time to reopen, build up some money, bring your staff back, to be able to fund that if you're keeping them on furlough, or able to just stop having them on furlough and bring them back full time. Whatever works for you, this scheme is going to be there as a safety net until the end of September. Now remember, flexible furlough will stay in place. So if you're thinking, well, this summer I'm hoping to be reasonably busy, I don't know how busy, but I want some staff in, absolutely fine. You can still use the flexible furlough scheme. So that means you can either keep some staff on full furlough and bring some back full time, or you can have 2 of them back full time and 2 of them back part time, just whatever you need to take that run up. That's going to be affordable, keep their jobs going, but actually get your business back into a position where it's running and operational again. Particularly if you are a hotel, a restaurant, a visitor centre, that over the summer ideally you need to be fully staffed. But if you're slightly worried, you might be 60% of the way there, 80% of the way there, but you're worried about bringing some stuff back, don't worry. You can use that, either the full furlough scheme to keep them on there until the end of September, or bring them back gradually and using the flexible furlough scheme. So that's all staying in place, huge reassurance. You'll administrate it just as you always did through that HMRC portal. I think there's been a lot of lessons learned over the last year about how to make that easy. And I'm guessing by now you're pretty au fait with how all of that works. So you'll claim it exactly the same way as you always have done, but that should give you some reassurance to your staff that their jobs can remain open until late September. And then the ideal scenario is by then you can bring them back just as you always did before. That hopefully COVID will be a memory, I won't say long forgotten memory, but something of the past by then. Now, there is a remaining question in this scheme. It's all gone a bit quiet. Do you remember the job retention bonus? Now, this was something that was outlined, I think, September last year. This was due to be a £1,000 payment, almost like a bonus payment as a thank you for each member of staff you'd had on furlough during 2020. And that was due to be, the cut-off point was January this year and due to be paid in February this year. When we went into the second national lockdown in November, and it looked like this was going to roll on a little bit longer than we'd all hoped and planned, that bonus was kind of kicked into the long grass. It wasn't fully cancelled. It certainly wasn't due for payment in the original time of January, February. And obviously we're past that point now. It hasn't been paid. We've heard no more about it. And we heard no more about it at the budget yesterday. So it's not been said, we're not paying it, it's not coming, but at the minute we just don't know anything about it. It's really been kicked into the long grass. So we've not forgotten. We've absolutely not forgotten, because I know a lot of businesses were banking on getting that. If they've got 8 members of staff and they'd had 8 members of staff on furlough in 2020, this was, a nice little £8,000 bonus at the start of the year. Some were really, really banking on that. So it's not officially gone away or been cancelled. It's just been kind of kicked into the long grass. And it's, if you ask questions, there's a bit of la, 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 la. So what I predict, but don't quote me on this, is because the scheme hasn't ended, that it will hopefully come back in some form towards the end of the year once the scheme has ended, and we've got a real true story of how many people have actually been on furlough, because obviously it won't just apply to staff that have been furloughed during 2020, it will be for 9 months of 2021 in some cases. So don't quote me on that. Given where we are with the country's finances, it might be that actually the Treasury just cannot afford to pay out those £1,000 bonuses, but let's see. We've not forgotten and we are chasing that, and we'll keep you updated. So that's a good reassurance that that's staying open. Also, some good news yesterday for those of you that are self-employed. The Self-Employed Income Support Scheme, the CEASE scheme, is continuing through again till September. So that will mean a 4th grant will come through, capped at £7,500. I think it's 80% of your profits from the last couple of years, exactly as it stands exactly as it did before. And then a final 5th grant due later in the year. I think that'll probably be about August, September. They haven't confirmed the cap or the amount that's payable at yet. It might be as low as about 30%. And I think they are looking at kind of scaling it depending on how profitable people have been over the last year. But again, devil in the detail here, we're waiting for that to come out. But the reassurance is that scheme is going to stay in place until the end of September, again, to help self-employed people in whatever sector you're in, to take so I can think of someone who's an independent chef in your sector who's self-employed. It's probably going to take a little while for him to get back up to full capacity. This scheme is exactly there for people exactly like that can still work, but it's going to take a while for them to get back up to capacity, so they can still claim against that but still work as well. So that's good news, but we don't know what that 5th and final grant looks like yet, but we'll let you know soon. And the really great news was that 600,000 more self-employed people are now going to be eligible for this scheme to access that CEASE support. So these are people that largely went self-employed last year or very late 2019. The reason they were frozen out before is because they hadn't submitted a tax return. So there was nothing to assess their claim on, essentially. Still quite unfair, because that forced a lot of them onto universal credit, but we are where we are with that. But now we've passed that tax return period. Over 500,000 more people are now going to be captured by this scheme. I don't believe it will be retrospective, though. You're not going to be able to claim the 3 grants that you've missed. It will be for the 4th and 5th grants. But that is good news. So if you went self-employed in the last year and a half, you've submitted your tax return, and that is a caveat. You must have submitted your tax return. You'll be able to claim for that. And also new startups. Sorry, that's exactly what I was just saying. You must have been able to submitted your tax return. If you've done all of that via HMRC, you're good to go and you should be able to claim. If you are new to the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme, though, do some homework on government's website, look up how it works, because lots of people now done 3 claims. If they've been self-employed for quite a long time, they're quite au fait with this. Excuse me. This will be your first time. Do a bit of homework. I do apologise, I've been talking so much the last day. To ask people that are self-employed that you know to give you a hand if needs be. Excuse me. Now, business rates. Now, you'll have no doubt known for last year there's been a business rates holiday for many rateable businesses, most of them in the hospitality sector and lots in customer facing businesses like hairdressers, cafes, shops, that kind of thing. We've been campaigning for that to be extended for the next year and to capture more businesses, in that there's lots of businesses in the supply chain for hospitality particularly who should really have benefited from that holiday, because they have premises too, but they haven't been able to operate normally because the industries they supply into have essentially been closed down, or there's been no demand for their products. So we're not quite there. We've got a bit of a hinterland, but the business rates holiday as we know it now for you guys will continue until June 2021. So no rates due for the next 4 months, 3 months. So we can continue that. The remaining 9 months of the tax year, so through till April 2022, it will be discounted by 2/3 for closed businesses or businesses that have been closed. So you're going to see a discount, but you are going to see your business rates return in some way from July, essentially. So get ready for that. Hopefully your local authority will be in touch soon. As soon as they know the detail, again, this information is not even a day old. They won't have the information yet about how they work it out, how they have to communicate it. So just have a tiny bit of patience there, but it will be coming, and government should be publishing that on their website soon as well, but we'll do all we can to keep you updated as well. There will be a lower cap for those who have been able to stay open during lockdown, whether they're an essential business or if there's something like a cafe where you've been able to do takeaway or a pub that's been doing takeaway. But again, this is all we know at the moment. That's kind of all that's been released. So we'll get some more details on what this means for tax rate, business rates in the coming months. So it's not what we'd asked for at all. We're asking for it to be extended for another year to give businesses that one less thing to worry about. Let them put that money that they would be paying to better use, either for more jobs, to invest in their businesses, to grow. That's not quite gone the way we would have liked it to, but there is a bit of a compromise there. So I hope that certainly comes some welcome news for the immediate term anyway. I will say on business rates, they are way past being due for review. They were due to be reviewed, just kind of root and branch review of how business rates work, who's captured, what the rates are last year, but obviously with COVID that got waylaid. That is still due, and we're doing all we can to talk to Treasury and Bays and anyone that will listen about how that needs to be reviewed, what kind of businesses need to be exempt. It's quite a simplistic skit. Well, it's complex and simplistic at the same time, really. But like we were saying, there are lots of other businesses that have premises that really shouldn't be paying rates, particularly at that smaller business end that we represent. So it's due for review anyway. But while that's going on, it's going to be a holiday and then a discount. VAT relief. This is the really good stuff. This is what we were all hoping to see. Again, we were hoping this would go through for another year, but compromise is a compromise. So this means that your industry is going to be able to benefit from that 5% VAT rate until September. So over that crucial summer, where hopefully you're going to be taking really, fingers crossed, a really strong run up to being back to normal. And in Lincolnshire, we'll hopefully be very lucky to get lots of people holidaying here or staying at home, if they're Lincolnshire people, staying at home and just seeing the sights, going to local restaurants, local pubs. That will continue until September over the summer. It will then go up slightly. There'll be an interim rate of 12.5% through till April next year, before it finally returns to normal into April 2022. Now, as we understand it at the moment, that works exactly as it does now. So if you want to pass on that saving to your customers, you can. If you don't and you want to benefit from the saving yourself, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So that we understand that will work exactly as it is now. So maybe in this next sort of kind of couple of weeks, while before most businesses can get back to business, particularly for hospitality, really have a think about what you want to do there. This is a chance to maybe recoup some money over the summer months, or it's a chance to drop your prices and welcome more people in. It's kind of 6 of 1 really, but it's totally up to you. So have a little think about that. So good news, that will continue, not as long as we wanted, but there's a bit of a compromise. It won't go back up to full whack until April 22. I remember by that point, we're 6 months due to be off, according to the OBR's predictions, full economic power, really. So fingers crossed that will work in your favour. But that is really good news. Now, corporation tax. Now, I know this is something that's been really concerning a lot of businesses. Now, if you're a much smaller business, this won't bother you too much. If you're at that stage where you do pay corporation tax and you wanted to, ideally, and I've heard from members in the county, wanted to make a saving on corporation tax, asked to be exempt for the next year, and again, instead use that money to invest in their business for jobs, for growth, for tech, whatever they might need. That's not going to be the case quite yet. Now, there's no immediate rise in corporation tax, but there's also not going to be a cancellation or a holiday. So if you do pay corporation tax, yes, that's still going to be due. No holidays, but it's not going to rise immediately, but it is going to go up. In April 2023, to just over 2 years from now, corporation tax will go up from 19% to 25%. Okay, so that is quite a significant jump. It's still allegedly, according to the Chancellor, and this is based on his knowledge and not mine, one of the lowest rates in the EU, but it's still, a 6% jump is quite a lot. But again, by that point, we should be 6 months past the point OBR says that we're at full capacity, and hopefully the economy will have grown and recovered well enough for that not to dent businesses too hard. But it's still always disappointing to see a rise. But as we saw in that very, very first slide that I outlined, money has got to be paid back, and it just seems to be businesses and hopefully larger businesses that will pay that back. The rate, there's going to be a kind of interim rate for smaller businesses at 19%, which should benefit about 1.5 million smaller companies, but very, very small ones, this shouldn't affect at all or too much. So a bit of relief there. It's not immediate, but it's also not a holiday from it. But then again, we don't live in a dream world. That money was always going to have to be paid, and it's all got to go back to building up the country's coffers, really. So, but in the immediate term, nothing to worry about. But do make sure that you can meet this year's bill. But you're not going to have to pay any more until 2023 if you pay it at all anyway. Now, loans. So on top of all of these grants and the furlough scheme and that kind of thing, we are still seeing that businesses are needing to take out a loan or wanting to take out a loan as a buffer, to kind of have as a big old bunch of money to draw on if the grants were to wind down or they found themselves in real dire straits and wanted to draw on that money. That has helped lots of businesses. Others have really taken them out reluctantly because it is taking on debt. It's not free money, it is a debt. Small businesses always have to think very carefully about every penny they borrow. And often it's the absolutely best thing to do. It can absolutely be the best thing to do to help your business grow, to scale up, and to borrow money at hopefully good rates with a good lender to do that. But in times like this, when there's been very little certainty about how you can pay it back, how long it'll take you to get back up to being able to pay it, that's not been what people have really, really wanted to do. But we've had these bounce back and CBILS loans. Now, I don't think anyone's actually called CBILS loans by their full name since their launch last April. So that was the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. That was launched first. That was they were at a bigger level. They were to give businesses the option to borrow money to get through what we thought was going to be about a 3 to 6 month interruption to business. How little did we know that wouldn't be the case. That was, in the early days of those schemes going live, we could see they weren't really benefiting smaller businesses. They were too big. It required too much borrowing. And banks were also asking for personal capital as well. We're seeing small business owners being asked to put up their house as capital, and that scared them to death, quite rightly. So they were backing off and saying, well, this isn't what I want. This isn't actually going to help me. This isn't going to help me. So very quickly, thanks to some campaigning, the bounce back loans were launched. They're at a smaller scale. They weren't asking for capital, and they could be paid out quite fast as well. So they still exist. People have been able to benefit from them. I know some people that have had them and spent them. I know some people that have had them and extended them. I know some people that have had them and are just keeping that money in reserve. And if they feel they need to pay it back, they'll pay it back. So it's, there's been some flexibility there. But they soon will close to new applicants. So if you've got one of these loans, it doesn't mean it's going to close and you've immediately got to pay the money back. The terms that were set out and the pay as you grow system is still in place. So don't worry, but they're going to close to new applicants. But what's going to come along is a new recovery loan scheme in the coming months, and these will be loans from 25,000 to 10 million. So again, at that larger scale. But even after the year we've had and some of the investments some businesses want to make, 25,000 is probably quite realistic. That will come soon. They'll be open for application until the end of 2021. So again, kind of short and sharp, like the bounce backs and CBILS are. And hopefully by that point, by January 2022, we're going to hopefully not find businesses needing to borrow money specifically to meet the COVID response, but let's see. But they're open until 2021 at the end of this year at the moment. And the great thing is 80% of that will be guaranteed, kind of underpinned, underwritten by government. So again, you're not going to have to put up huge amounts of personal capital. They should, in theory, be quite easy to access. I know that's easier said than done. I know some members and some businesses locally have had absolute nightmare with banks, with the CBILS and bounce back loans. That did start to work through some of those issues. A lot of it came down to the bank side being under-resourced because they all had staff from home and were trying to find new ways of working, or they hadn't had sufficient information from government or from their head office about how these things were to be administrated. But that seems to be shaking out a little bit now. So hopefully all those lessons will be learned for this new recovery loan scheme. But supplementary, government are going to underwrite 80% of that guarantee. So this should be hopefully a really good way to borrow money to help your business come back strong. So start thinking about if that would be something that might suit you. If you're going to make investments, if you want to grow, if you want to take on more premises, more staff, have a think about how that might benefit you. Once all the terms come out and the rates and which lenders are going to do it, I know Chancellor was saying some of the biggest lenders like Lloyds and Santander have already signed up to this scheme. So if you bank with them, or if you want to just look and see if they've got anything on their website yet, have a look. It's early days, they might not do, but it will be coming. So look out for the recovery loan scheme and have a think about whether that might benefit you. But of course, always with debt, really think about whether it's the right thing. Sometimes absolutely is. So that's good news. Some more good stuff as well. There is a real big agenda you'll have seen locally and nationally about upskilling the nation, using technology to turn to automation. Now that's not to replace people, it's to free up people from drudgery work that's not rewarding, that a machine could do either quicker, faster, cheaper, but a human could be redeployed elsewhere to do a more meaningful, rewarding, happier job, hopefully. So we're going to see a big thrust coming forward. You'll see this coming through in the news, in government agendas, in local council stuff. A lot of information you'll get from the council will be around upskilling, training, and innovation and automation. And that's to kind of like use this period, this weird year that we've just been in, as a kind of launching pad to, right, let's really think about what people want from their lives, from their jobs, from their businesses, and use technology to its full capacity. So we're going to see some incentives and some schemes coming through that help on both those measures. Training is really important because it links to the skills agenda. So that's pumping through the right skills into the right industries, in the right sectors, in the right areas, right through from school, college, university, vocational training, lifelong learning. And a lot of that obviously links to the economy because it's jobs and it's earnings, but also it's about health. People that are better trained in happier jobs, more rewarding roles, taken out of that drudgery, it improves the health, improves the happiness, and if we can see that upskilling and that levelling up here in Lincolnshire, I think it could absolutely transform the place. So I'd really, really, really encourage you to look out for training schemes, ones that are fully funded, ones that are online, ones that you can just access, not just for you, but for your staff as well. This can make for a happier, healthier, more productive workforce, a more profitable business, a happier, healthier place to live, and a healthier national economy. So I know that stuff you can think, why did you always talk about training and skills? It's just what people want to do with their jobs. This is a really big old story. And when you think about how it links to health and happiness and productivity, and how all of that links to prosperity and international productivity, it does matter. So I'd really, really think about this period while you're taking this slow run up over the next couple of weeks, and then this run up over the summer, about what training you and your staff could do with. There are lots of fully funded schemes out there. I know Legat do a fully funded scheme, they're local. They'd be happy to talk to anyone in hospitality in Lincolnshire about what they can do for you. There are lots of online schemes. It might be something more formal with colleges. It doesn't always have to cost a ton of money, but it is about lifelong learning, encouraging staff to keep learning, to keep training, to adapt to new technologies. There's going to be new demand from customers when we all go back to work. People might not customer service might look a little bit different after a year off of people not going in hotels or not eating in restaurants all the time. Customer service might change a little bit. People's expectations might change. People might feel a bit weird about being back in the world for a little while. So have a think about what you're going to need to bring your business strong. But this is playing the long game, this really, but it does link to happier, healthy staff, more prosperous businesses, and a better national economy. So there's going to be some good stuff coming through. And one of the big flagship ones that was announced yesterday was the Help to Grow training programs. Now, there are some caveats in this, in that it does seem to be you need to at least 5 staff, you need to be at this team of at least 5 to benefit from this. So for our sole traders and micro businesses, this isn't suiting, but we've not given up. We're going back to them on this one and saying, you've missed out some very important people. Please rethink this. But as of yesterday, this is how it stands. So these are executive development programs for primarily at the moment, management and digitization. These are being pitched as world-class training programs to level up the skills and capability of business owners, but also people in businesses. As we can see, as I was just saying, digitization, automation, these are big agendas nationally, locally, and should be for your business. Where can you use technology to work faster, cheaper, more productive, and to take people out of drudgery work? So these are really, really exciting as they look so far. Again, we do need them to scale down slightly and make them open to people, because if people are sort of 1 or 2 staff, if they go on the executive program for management, that could really, really, really help them power up to grow even further. So it's a slight oversight there, but we'll go back on that one. But so far they're launching these 2 schemes, help to manage and help to digitize. It will be also, you can also get funding for software again. So if it's a booking system or God forbid, an envelope stuffing machine, whatever is going to help, your business grow and be more productive, there'll be some funding in there. We're 90% subsidised by the government. I think you're looking at paying around, if you want to take part in one of these schemes, look at around £750 investment, but it would be an investment. If they are pitching this as world-class management training and digital training, aligned with some of the best universities and best vocational trainers, it is very, very much worth it. And the cost of vocational training, if you were to get something like that for £750, let me tell you, that would be a bargain. I've done some eye-watering postgrad courses, the cost of which, so if they've been £750, I'd have bitten the hand off. So it's worth looking out for. There's going to be 30,000 places available over 3 years. Let's make sure that everyone in Lincolnshire can benefit from this however possible. So if you're thinking about, actually, I've kind of grown up through my business, I've never done any formal management training, but I think if I had it, I could be a better boss, I could be more innovative, I could be braver, I could have more information about how to grow my business, how to make more money, how to give something back. This is your chance. You're not going to have to go back to university. You're not going to have to take months and months and months off to go and relearn, because of course these will be designed to go alongside your day job. So this is your chance. Look into these places. Again, we're going to sort of try and get them to wiggle on that five placement threshold. You need to have at least 5 staff. You don't have to put 5 staff on the course or 240. You need to have a business of at least 5 staff for at least 1 person to go on, but we're going to work on wiggling them on that one. And your business must have been operating for over a year. So that are the only caveats so far. Now you can find out a little bit more about this as the details are now, and I think you can register an expression of interest at gov.uk/help to grow. I'll give the link to Samantha, and hopefully she'll be able to put this with the YouTube video. Worth looking at, and very much worth registering your place. This is a chance to grow, to learn, to be a better boss, a better business owner, and to take advantage of digitization as well. If you think, I don't know what the hell that means, then this is a chance to learn and to help your business be a lot more responsive, better at marketing, more productive. This is a really, really good chance. I'm a big fan of this as it looks so far. If they could only wiggle down to and remove that 5 threshold, but we'll work on that and we'll come back to you. That's really exciting. It's also going to double the apprenticeship incentive grant to £3,000. So obviously there's going to be lots of people coming out of school and college and even university now into a really difficult jobs market. So this incentive is to exactly that, incentivize businesses to take on an apprentice or apprentices of any age as well. So there isn't an age cap on this. And you will get an incentive of £3,000. I would not turn your nose up at that. It's really worth looking into. And of course, if it's an apprenticeship, if you go through a local body like the college, like Lincoln College or Boston College or the GAT, lots of other apprenticeship schemes, you could get some extra resource in. They'll be trained along the way. You'll get a £3,000 bump. So really, really worth looking into that. I don't know when that 3,000 is going to upscale. Hopefully it might be immediate, but again, we don't know yet. The details not come out. But if you were thinking about taking on some more staff and you wanted to think about an apprentice to take on, it doesn't have to be a younger person, they've said of any age, but obviously they're the ones that seem to be really struggling in terms of landing a job straight out of school or college. Talk to a local apprenticeship body, one of the colleges or the GAT, and you could be getting £3,000 bonus and some extra resourcing. Remember, the Kickstart scheme is still open as well. That's those 6-month fully funded placements for someone who's 16 to 25 to work 25 hours a week in your business for 6 months, and their wages will be fully paid. That's still open, will be till the end of this year. For applications, they must have completed there, I think, by the end of next year. There were a few bumps on the road getting that going, but that does seem to be sort of shaking out a bit now. So don't forget about that. So you've got opportunities to get new staff in with either an incentive or fully funded, so do look into them. And there's also going to be another £126 million for traineeships coming through, but I've not seen details of that yet. But you can see how training, skills and innovation is coming through quite strong. And I think this is something Lincolnshire businesses could really benefit really well from. So I really encourage you to look into any of those, either for yourself or for your team. So that's exciting. Oh, and also, yes, to stimulate innovation, there's going to be a super deduction tax. This is to unlock business investment, growth, and that kind of thing. So if you're going to invest in tech, in machinery, in software, there's a chance to reduce taxable profits by 130%. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what that means, but it sounds good, doesn't it? But again, at the moment, there's not much out about that super deduction tax break. But if you are thinking that you were planning to invest, maybe hold off and see what that looks like, because that could be a way to recoup some money and, you know, play your part in innovation and growth. So wrapped through an awful lot there, but they're the headlines, but there's some other stuff in there that does affect hospitality industry here in Links. This is the AOB, any other business. Minimum wage is going to increase from £8.91 from April. So if you've got staff on minimum wage, that's going to need to go up. So please do your homework now and get ready for that. Thankfully, there's no increase on fuel duty or alcohol. So if you've got a fleet of vehicles or any vehicles at all, you're not going to be seeing more spent on fuel duty. If you sell alcohol, no increase there on any kind, not beer, not spirits, not wine. So that's being held again, I think, for something like the 11th year. So there's no increase there that you've got to deal with. Contactless payment systems are going to increase from £100. That's the bottom limit, from £45 up to £100. That's from April. You don't have to do it, as you understand at the moment. If you're more comfortable with people only paying at that lower end, you don't have to move up to this higher scale. There's some details on that to come over the next couple of weeks. You're not going to have to do it, particularly if you are something like a hotel and you've maybe got rooms for £85. But you'd rather people actually just paid, you know, at that lower end and use their card and their PIN for higher amounts. That should be absolutely fine. You're not going to be forced to do that, or forced to do it yet. At the moment, it does seem to be optional. And if you are going for it, you might need to update your system, your payment system. But I'm sure your card processor will be in touch about what that means. But I think that's from April. So if you are thinking of doing that, look into what that means as details come out. But again, as far as I know now, you don't have to do it. If you're more comfortable at keeping it at that lower cap of 45, that should be absolutely fine for the time being. As Samantha said, there's going to be a lot of money coming through to help cultural hotspots in the country and in our county, so museums and cultural bodies. This is only to England, but of course we're in England, so that's fine. Going to get 90 million between them so they can keep their doors open towards the summer, and then hopefully over that time, and as we recover as a nation, that funding can scale down. But that's really, really good news, because if we want everyone to come on holiday to Lincolnshire, we need some attractions open. It's great having the hotels and the restaurants, super important. They need beds, they need feeding, and they need somewhere to come and, you know, lay their head. But there needs to be stuff for them to do. We need the Parrot Zoo, we need the galleries, we need the collection. We need, I'm trying to think, the Guildhall in Boston. We need these places open for people to come and have a look around, so they keep coming back time and time again. So that's really, really good news, and that'll be coming through soon. Another nearly £19 million for community cultural projects. not seen any detail on this yet. Again, sounds exciting. I'm all for it. Sounds good. But let's wait and see what the detail is. But if you are part of a community body that sort of plays a part in the cultural element of the county, look out for that one. I think Samantha mentioned this as well. Sports are going to be getting a £300 million recovery package. So that's obviously shared between an awful lot of sports businesses across the country. But if you've got any kind of sports facilities, cricket clubs, swimming clubs, anything like that, this is worth looking into. There's been no details released on how you access that yet, but it'll all come. We always have this lull after a budget where it's all very, these headlines sound exciting, and then you have to wait for the detail. It always does come. You sometimes have to go digging for it. Sometimes it's really, really easy to find it, but I'm sure these big flagship schemes, they're not going to keep hidden. So it'll come. Now, finally, these are nothing to do with the budget. And I'm just going to skip back a bit and give myself away there. You'll have seen in the budget there was still no support for company directors. We're still seeing people frozen out of support. A year into this crisis, we are still seeing people frozen out. So we've seen more people captured, more newly self-employed people captured in self-employment. We've seen more grants getting rolled out, loans, that kind of thing. There was not a single peep about supporting company directors, which after a year of being on the kind of cliff edge is beyond disappointing. It's beyond disappointing. That's as mild a way as I can say it, really. I know there will be a lot of anger amongst that group. Don't blame you. We're still working on it. We're not going to give up on this. We have presented an entirely workable plan to Treasury about how a director's income support scheme, if you ever see hashtag DIS on social media, that's what it is, director's income support scheme. That's what we've been working on to show Treasury how it can be based on corporation tax returns for the last few years, just like the self-employment scheme is based on personal tax returns, how it can be rolled out through HMRC, and keep these people who create jobs, not just their own job, other people's jobs, ticking over, supported, recognised as they get back to business. Not a peep. Very sad, but we've not given up. Luckily, here in Lincolnshire, of course, we know we're lucky because we've got the Business Recovery Fund being offered by the County Council. So this did open that Business Recovery Fund, which is for new startups and directors that have had no other support. That did go live for 2 days last week. There was about 419 applications of about £3 million. The council reopening that scheme today. That blue card there, that's from last week. That's reopening, and actually I think it was at 9 o'clock. That opened at 9 a.m. this morning on Thursday, the 4th of March. There's slightly, I won't say change the eligibility, but they've just slightly relaxed. There was a threshold that you had to demonstrate at least a 30% loss in your income. That was fine. We were finding there were people that made like a 26% loss, so a significant loss, but couldn't quite meet the threshold, were being frozen out. It's not fair. It's not what the fund's for. It's not to catch people out. It's designed to support people. So that's gone live again this morning. It will be open until noon on Saturday the 6th. I'm just working out my dates. Saturday the 6th. So again, a short, sharp application. But if you got to the application form last time and found that you couldn't demonstrate those losses, go back, apply, because now you just need to demonstrate any loss. You still need to fulfil some of the eligibility criteria, and you still need to provide some evidence, just as you did last week, but they've relaxed that threshold for making a loss. Please go back. There's still £4 million to be spent there. If you are eligible, please go back to it. Please apply. You only got 2.5 days, and the eligibility is still, it's tight but fair. This is public money. The council have got to be responsible with public money. They've got to make sure that, it's not going out to fraudulent claims or anything like that. But please do go back to it. We're very lucky and in a unique position in the county. There is nowhere else in the country that has schemes like this open. So please do go back to it. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to help, but the council are trying to do all they can to help as well. Just a quick word of warning, get as much ready as you can in advance. You'll need to prepare at least a 500-word statement on your losses, all of that kind of thing. Write that in advance. Don't write it live, because the application pages, the form pages freeze or time out after 20 minutes. If you're there thinking through all the history of the last year and you're trying to articulate it, you're not going to have time. Draft it or write it in Word first so you can paste it in during the pages. So that's a little word to the wise. So that's Business Recovery Fund is just one part of a four-part scheme. So the other parts, the two that are online now, is the Digital Voucher Fund. You can get the eligibility for that this week. You can find out what that looks like now. the councils. I think you go to councils, council and councillors, business and funding, then digital voucher fund. That's to help businesses digitise. So that's on top of this stuff that's coming through from the Treasury. These are vouchers to help you buy tech, software, hardware to help your business to build a website, get booking systems, whatever you need to reopen. That will open, the applications for that will open on Monday, the 8th, but you can get the eligibility and find out what evidence you're going to need to supply today, as of that opened on this Monday just gone. Please do go have a look. And same for the rural business grant as well. That's going live on Monday for applications, but you can see the eligibility today. That's for businesses in rural locations, ideally things like shops, post offices, hairdressers in rural locations. Doesn't have to be those, but of course they've suggested some ideal kinds of businesses that would benefit from a small grant to help them recover and get back to business as we go through this roadmap to unlocking. So please do look into those 3 schemes. There is a final one to come a little further down. That's an innovation fund. That's a kind of like growth and innovation fund at a slightly higher level of grants. But these are the ones that are either open now or about to open. So please do check them out, the council's website. If in doubt, just Google Links County Council digital voucher and it will come up. So please, this money needs to be spent. The council have withdrawn this from the county's reserves. It's not a kind of, oh, well, we'll take it out and say we're taking it out, but we'll only pay out like 2% of it. That money is there to be spent, and we're all to hold their feet to the fire there and say, you said you'd spend this, you said you'd spend it on supporting the county. Let's get them to spend it, but they can only do that if you put your application in, and they want to spend it as well. We're in a unique position. There's nowhere else in the country that's doing this, so let's take advantage of it. And I really want to see Visit Lincoln partners benefit from that. And I'm obviously encourage all FSB members in Lincolnshire to apply for these funds and the innovation one when it comes online. So that's the final word from me on that. That's nothing really to do with the budget, but the fact that business directors have been frozen out of the budget, I couldn't, knowing these things are open now, is the only sort of reassurance I can give, really. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. I'm sure you can come back to Samantha and she'll answer what she can. If she can't, she always gives me a ring and we can find you an answer somewhere. So an awful lot in there, a lot of good stuff. Is it enough to save every single business? Is it enough to repair all of the economic damage? Arguably not. It's maybe not what a budget's for, but I think it could have gone further. But there is lots of good stuff in there that should help your business. Some things you're going to have to be proactive about, go and seek out, go and apply for. Some things will just come to you. Some things you will have to prepare for, but there is some really, really good stuff in there. I'd encourage you to look into anything there that I've said that you think, actually, that could really work for us. Look into it, and we'll do all we can to keep you updated as details come out in the coming weeks and months, as they inevitably will. So I think that's it from me, Samantha. Is there anything else that's come through that you wanted to raise or you thought your partners would ask?
No, I think you've comprehensively covered the whole of the budget there for us, and to cover our sector. And I know that you've been probably speaking lots and lots. I could hear you.
Yeah, hence the coughing. Yeah, I do apologise. That's not
no need to apologise. I totally understand, and I do appreciate you again taking time to speak to us this morning. I think there's numerous schemes that are coming through that are really helpful to hospitality and tourism sectors, to all businesses really, but they are the two that we sort of mainly deal with and support, and those schemes are there. And like Katrina says, I would encourage people to try and apply for these grants. The rural grant, it is open for people who have a tourism offering as well. So if you've got an accommodation out in a rural location and you're doing something out there, then you need to look at that grant. And like Katrina says, that the money is there to be spent, so let's encourage that spend. And and also just thinking about going back to training, it's I'm a big believer in upskilling and training, just like
it can change lives. It can change lives. It can change businesses
hugely. And I think hospitality is a unique sector in as which as if you come into it, you can actually grow through on the job training. It's a really exciting sector to work in, and you can start at an entry level. And I've known people who've gone on and they now own pubs and they've got personal licenses, but they've taken that journey through, and it's really encouraging to see. And I think while we've all been away, when businesses get ready now to prepare to open, customers will have this, they do want to feel safe. They want to come back and enjoy all the things that they can take advantage of. You want to come back and meet friends and have a coffee and chat, but they want to be sure that it's a safe environment, it's great to do, and the service is there. And maybe that, you know, some of the staff got a little bit rusty because they've been away from service for so long. So I do think that, you know, some of these courses, I know that Legat and I think Lincoln College as well, I'm sure other colleges do across the county, they have this world host training.
Yes,
you know, you can come back, you can just give your staff a bit of a refresher, and
the confidence as well. There'll be people that have been on furlough for nigh on a year now, and when they come back, like you say, they might be a bit rusty just in terms of they haven't done it for a while, but also confidence because they've really dipped. This has been a scary time. You know, lots of not knowing what's happening with their job, with their health, family's health, all, you know, everything, all the bad news that we've had to deal with day in, day out. But they'll probably see a big drop in confidence in some staff, which is sad, but probably inevitable of them having, you know, it's when you come back after being unemployed, their confidence can be quite low. So if a bit of training, bit of investment, and sort of a bit of a nod and a wink that we're getting this because we believe in you. You just need this isn't a criticism that we don't think you do anything well enough. This is a chance for you to learn a bit more, feel better about it, and take a qualification away. You know, so this could really help their confidence and just ease them back into work as well.
Definitely. And as managers, you know, you can go on other courses and improve your own self-development as well, and learn new things and new skills. And that
staff can train while they're on furlough as well. They can still, so if you've got this remaining time, they can't work, obviously they can do no work, but they can do training. So if you want to use this remaining time, they're still there to look out for some courses, whether they're fully funded or they're online courses or the ones that you do choose to invest in. You know, maybe use this time while they're taking a run up to coming back to work, but still technically off, and you're claiming they can train while they're on furlough. So it might be a good way to sort of rebuild their confidence, rebuild their readiness to come back.
I think that's it. You know, and a lot of the courses now are digital, so they could be at home, like you say, they're off work at home, they can look at those courses. But yeah, I think there's lots of things. One of the things I wanted to ask, because I got asked just very late in the afternoon yesterday, I think, after the budget announcement, just going back to the new recovery loan. And I don't know if you know the answer to this, because I didn't. The new recovery loan, if a business has already had the bounce back or the CBILS, can they still apply for the new recovery, or is it, do you think once you've had that one, you can't get the new recovery loan?
They haven't specifically said. I mean, I guess it will all come down to creditworthiness. Yeah. Just like if you were taking out a mortgage and a credit card within a couple of months of each other, that would go on your credit record. So it will come down to, I assume this is kind of, you know, educated guess really, rather than having the full facts, because they've not said. You will be taking on debt. And it will depend on creditworthiness and whether that individual lender thinks you're in a position to have both.
Pay that back,
So yeah, it will come down to almost a bit of a case-by-case basis on creditworthiness. They've not explicitly said if you've had one, you can't have the other, but they've not released the full detail. I suspect if you couldn't, they'd have said. But yes, at the moment, I assume not. You won't be precluded if you've had one and now you want the other. It will just come down to creditworthiness, and that they will assess your individual circumstances, or the business's individual circumstances, about your capability and likelihood to pay it back.
That's what I thought. So I think all in all, there's been some, you know, as you say, it wasn't life changing for lots of people, but there was some really good things there that businesses can take advantage of, and it's a really good start to getting everybody back open, getting them back on their feet. And I think it's just a matter of these businesses looking at the schemes, taking advantage of them, and using them to the best, you know, to the best.
Absolutely, they're there, so let's use them.
Yeah, lovely. Right, well, I shall let you go. Appreciate you speaking to us today.
No problem. It's all brand new, so yeah,
I know it's not really sunk in yet. But I'm sure we'll be speaking again shortly. And as Katrina said, if you've got any questions and you're not sure about something, please let us know. And I think between us both, we can try and answer those for you. And also, please let me know if you're interested in joining the FSB and becoming a member. Just let me know, because Visit Lincoln Partners do get a discount on that. It's worth having, and teaming up with both ourselves and FSB. So I'll let you go, Katrina, and thank you again, and we will speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.